He starts talking to her outside the stall. He told her her shirt was ugly, he didn't like her shirt. He tries to enter her bathroom stall. Thank God, the lock held. Now he's trying to entice her to come out and he will give her candy. He changed from what he was wearing into something else. She saw a tattoo on his upper left arm. She saw another tattoo on his right calf. She was able to describe everything that went on perfectly. This man left the bathroom. She told her mother. She told her father when he came home. He called the Woburn police. The Woburn police said, you need to come back down to Target and fill out a police report. And that's what they did. When the family got to the Target and got close to the door, the little girl did not want to go in. When they went inside, the little girl told the same exact story for the third time. The police wrote out the report, and the police talked with the parents afterward and said that they had a suspect that they identified from the surveillance cameras. However, they didn't think that necessarily a crime had been committed. A few days later, they interviewed the suspect. He does identify as a woman. And he convinced the police that it was a misunderstanding. So no charges have been filed. This, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly the problem we have with this law. This family was very fortunate that this little girl, other than being emotionally harmed, was not physically harmed, was not sexually assaulted, was not kidnapped, and she is alive today because that bathroom door stayed locked. This is why we fight this poorly written law. Law was already in place that protected the transgender community from discrimination. We do not believe that anyone should be discriminated against, but we do not feel that women's safety should be at risk because of a poorly written law. I believe that the primary responsibility of every government, whether it's local, state, or federal, is to protect its citizens. Beacon Hill failed the women in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This is a very bad law and it needs to be repealed. I'm finished. I'd like you to vote no on 3.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Okay, so now you've heard 2 sides of question 3. Are there any questions for anybody? Oh, yes.
State your name and where you're from. I'm John Russo from Reading. This law goes too far. The law allows currently that any sex offender.
I have to ask you, are you going to ask a question or?
No, I'm going to ask a question. Do you want?
Okay, as long as you're going to ask a question.
I will. The law goes too far. That's statement number 1. And convicted sex offenders, any classifications, 2, 3 of these sex offenders, they're allowed to go into these bathrooms. That's the way the law is written. Why is it written that way? Why do you have to have, why didn't they exclude that? It's only logical, so I'm asking a question of that gentleman. Why didn't they exclude sex offenders? The Catholic Church, and I'm a Catholic, has had extensive history with sex offenders. very difficult to change, they're not. Why should we risk people, children, in this kind of atmosphere? They cannot be changed, they say. Some do change, they become X. And this is all about transgenders. The other people who are suffering from this, there's no concern. So I'm asking, why isn't there no concern? So there's a couple of questions there.
So the first question is, why did they not include,
Why didn't they exclude
Exclude.
convicted sex offenders?
okay? and
Why
the-
not?
And the second question?
Was about the fact that, I'll think about it in a moment.
Okay.
Just take care of that one.
Okay, we all are concerned about safety and privacy, okay? And again, a crime is a crime, and it is staying that way. And I have daughters, I have grandchildren, some of them are granddaughters. I'm concerned about them. But if there's a crime committed in a restroom, then it's still a crime. And this is about the rights of the transgender community. And if they're, inclusive of that, again, nobody is allowed to commit a crime in the restroom.
But these are convicted sex offenders. You don't have any compassion for those people who are exposed to these people in a closed environment? That's not an adequate answer, sir.
Well, it may not be adequate for you, I'm sorry, but if someone is using a public restroom, you don't know when they go in to use a restroom for its purpose that they're a sex offender, and if they are going in and doing their business and then coming out without doing anything abnormal or without doing anything illegal, then they have the right to use that restroom that they identify
One
with.
last comment. You're risking the public. That's the whole point.
You asked your question. Would you like to respond?
Thank you. There were a number of amendments that were proposed to this legislation as it was being passed, and one of which was proposed by Shauna O'Connell from Taunton, and she recommended that the bill exclude sexual predators levels 2 and 3. It was voted down. It was not amended. Another one of the amendments was to protect police officers who respond to calls in good faith so that they would not be charged with a civil rights violation. So there were a number of things that were put in place that would have protected police officers and women, and they were voted down. They did not pass.
Thank you. Yes? Name and town from which you come.
My name is Tracy Cost. I live in North Reading. I'm just wondering, so was the amendment that level 2 and 3 sex offenders are just banned from any public bathroom anywhere? Because a female sex offender could assault a female child. A male sex offender can assault a male child. I'm not really seeing how the sex offender thing factors in at all.
I guess we think differently.
So you only
I mean, our issue is with women, and because I do consider women the weaker sex physically and less able to protect themselves. And but we don't want anyone to be the victim of a predator. This little girl,
I'm not concerned about little boys.
this
Answer the question.
this little girl was a victim, but obviously you don't see it that way. And to respond to my opponent's remarks regarding they can't do anything illegal. But what this law does is that it opens the door and gives opportunity to people who will do harm. So they've now got the opportunity and they had the motive. So it's just not, it's not good for men to be in these spaces for women. And our objection is strictly about safety and privacy.
Ken, did you want to respond?
First off, a transgender woman is not a man. Secondly, okay, I agree with the person asking the question as far as both genders should be protected. If this is such a, opening up the risk to such a danger, why are over 50 groups that protect women who have suffered from sexual assault or domestic violence in support of this? And if it's a problem with police protections, why are the chief of police in support of yes on question 3?
I have another question. You want to respond?
I want to respond
Okay.
to that. I'll use my 2 minutes that I didn't use before. Regarding the, trying to think how you phrased it now. There was an incident last December in a women's spa in Milton. And a transgender woman called and wanted to make an appointment for a full bikini wax. She was declined service because she has male genitalia. And this spa, while they do give Brazilian waxes to women, they do not offer that service for men. So this individual is a transgender woman with male genitalia, and they do not provide that service. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't talk like this normally. You know, I mean, this is not the kind of conversation that I would normally be having with you. But it is a necessity that people understand how far this law has gone and how it is really a threat to women and children, but to businesses. A lawsuit was filed against this spa owner, and it was dropped. But mark my words, it'll be back. It doesn't make for good advertising right now during the campaign.
Thank you. How many minutes do we have? 3 minutes. I believe someone back there would like to ask a question. We have to come forward. Did you have me centered? Because I'll let you take my spot.
Hey, I'm Phil Healy, North Reading, been here 7 years. Thank you both for speaking about this. It's very important. Debbie, this is for you, but you can feel free to chime in. And may I just say, you're being very brave in the face of facts and decency to be here and talk and speak about what you're speaking about. And I just want to know, if Mass First, is that Mass Family First? Is that the name of your organization?
No, Keep Massachusetts Safe.
Thank you. I was wondering if they actually had this in their repertoire for their research, if they were able, when talking about their opposition to this, if they had watched movies like Some Like It Hot, Bosom Buddies, Mrs. Doubtfire, To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, Tootsie, were they able to derive anything from that to kind of come to their decision right now, and were they able to take from that and make kind of this this bizarre kind of turn on this real subject?
I am not aware of their movie habits of the rest of my team, but our issue is not with the transgender community. Our issue is about safety and privacy for women. It's a bad law and it needs to be repealed, and it's up to the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to understand that this is about safety. It's a bad law. It needs to go away. Because this little girl was one of the fortunate ones there will be a very significant and a very sad event if we do not repeal this law.
Yes? How many minutes do we have? 1 minute.
1 minute. Leanne Gonzalez, North Reading. You made mention that there was already law in place before this. So my question is, if this was repealed, how does that law stand? What changed when this new law came in?
There'll be no time limit on the answers for both individuals.
The change that occurred had to do with self-identification. And so any man can self-identify as a woman and go into these spaces. I mean, we cannot discriminate against people anywhere, but we can restrict the use by women's spaces by men.
Okay?
I'll use that question to address what Debbie had to say earlier, in that if all it was is by identity, whatever, just as fact, the spa owner, the person who made the appointment at the spa, made that appointment to have a manicure. When the spa owner found out that the person was transgender, they canceled the appointment. And in fact, there were no fines ever levied on the spa owner, and wouldn't be on any business owner. This is why so many businesses, big and small, are in support of Yes on 3, including places like Planet Fitness, that would do that because it would take several years and several claims before they would receive fines. Okay?
That didn't answer the question.
I am sure that that minute passed.
We're talking about the 2011 law, though?
No,
That wasn't portrayed correctly.
well, our time is up. I mean, the 10 minutes are up and they had their opportunity.
My question wasn't answered though. If this was repealed,
Okay,
what was the original law that you're saying that transgenders were protected already?
Just in housing, lending, employment, and
Okay.
public education.
okay.
That's what I just want to know what.
I want, excuse me, I want the speakers to answer the question, please. Okay, all right, so just to clarify,
Yeah,
your question is, what was the law
before.
before? Is your question, did it become defunct?
It didn't get answered.
What was the law in 2011 and what added in 2016 to make 2011 different?
Right. So if this is repealed, does it go back to the original law? that
Does
was
anybody
already
know the answer
enacted?
to that question? Does it go back to, okay, wait, you're gonna yield to someone who would know the answer? Okay. Name?
My name is Jody, and I'm also a resident of North Reading. So the 2011 law protects transgender individuals in housing, credit, public education, and work. It doesn't protect them in any other facets of life. The 2016 law covered them in places of public accommodations, which is hospitals, buses, parks. The No on 3 campaigns putting forth that the law wouldn't change anything is based on the fact that there was some guidance around it that transgender people shouldn't be discriminated against from the Massachusetts, I might forget the group that did it, but the committee.